Hello and welcome to the Keto Man's Club podcast.
We're glad you're here, where each week we talk about men's health and lifestyle.
We do so with the foundation of the ketogenic diet and lifestyle.
If you don't know what keto is, stick around and you'll find out.
The podcast will bring you real, honest fun.
Each week we strive to uncover the tips and tricks that you can use in your everyday life to maximize your overall health.
Find the clearest path to becoming the best version of yourself that you were meant to be.
Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Keto Man's Club podcast. My name is Chris. I'm one of your hosts, and I'm actually in person with Alberto this week. Say hi.
What's going on? I actually decided to make the voyage 6.5 miles north to Chris's studio.
Yeah, and this isn't my normal studio, so but it's part of the studio because there's like multiple places, I guess. So we're doing that for a special reason. We'll talk about that here in a moment. But yeah, I'm here with Alberto. Jim is with us too. How's it going, Jim?
I am from the Arctic north of southern Indiana. So it's like time zones have changed, hairstyles have changed. It's completely different world up here from you guys. I don't know. I don't even know how we got connected. How did we even ever meet? Do we know this?
The internet. The ubiquity of the internet. And
there you go.
Lovely
there
that is. Yeah. Well,
it's nice to chat with you, gents.
Yeah, absolutely. It's you're remote, but you're still with us in spirit and in voice, and that's all that matters. Let's go ahead and dive in. So, Alberto, how's your week been? How's it? Any keto news for you?
Oh, yeah. My cut is officially over. I was going to drag it out to my birthday, but I am completely over the low-fat shenanigans, and I'm slowly reversing my way out of that. And I'm looking forward to a bulk, which here, let me show you. Let me tell you real quick. My bulk calories will be 3,700 calories a day, 307 grams of fat, 190 grams of protein, and I'll never make it to 46 grams of carbs, but that's what they would be if I were to follow this Keto Savage calculator to the T. So yeah, I got work ahead of me. 3,700 calories a day is going to take effort.
Yeah, that's work in and of itself. That's kind of crazy. Jim, how about you? What's new?
I am in week 2 of job training, and I am making a roughly 90-minute commute one way every day. So I'm driving 90 minutes. I am in front of a computer for anywhere from about 6 to 7 hours, and then returning home with that 90-minute commute. We always talk in the Keto Man's Club about fitness, and it's all different kinds. I mean, you can watch the videos of Alberto and Chris doing their whatever time you guys go, 3-4 a.m. kind of thing, workouts. I know our guest is an avid fitness guy as well. Lots of our members participate in all different types of fitness, everything from just walking to the hardcore stuff. I can't believe the difference in a negative way of just so much sitting in the last 10 days or so, to the point of being uncomfortable. And me and a couple of the people that are in the class actually talked to the instructor early this week, and can we just stand up and, we're not going to do anything. We just need to stand and walk. And she's like, that's absolutely fine. I get it. No problem. And we've converted our class of about 12 people. Most of the time, there are at least 4 or 5 of us that are standing, and we are just kind of like that game at the old pizza place when we were kids, where they would pop up out of the holes, the little moles kind of thing. People just pop up, and nobody's taking a hammer and trying to bop us back down in there, but we're just popping up periodically to move and whatnot. So, pizza place, not on keto necessarily, but hey, you got to throw it out there. So my point with all of that is just the importance of movement, whatever it may be. Because when you don't have the opportunity to move, when you're stuck sitting or whatever the case for hours, holy cow, your body definitely does not like that.
Yeah. I am very fortunate to have my standing desk that work provided me due to actual physical issues I was having with my tailbone or whatnot. And so they've been gracious enough to accommodate me in that and provide me with a standing desk. And so that helps a ton for posture and everything else. But it is nice to have that flexibility to be able to stand at least some of the time, if not the majority of the time. Of course, Alberto doesn't get a chance to sit down hardly at all.
No,
Right.
just when I'm driving, and it's sad because like the most comfortable seat I've ever sat in is my truck seat, and that shouldn't be anything to be proud of by any means. But yeah, not a whole lot of sitting this week. I actually wore my watch for once and wore the battery out, but I think I was on Monday, 5 miles of walking in a paint suit with 15 pounds of breathing gear strapped to my back and climbing up and down scaffoldings and painting roofs of cars. And yeah, it was a rough day, man. That's the day I drank 300 ounces of water and only peed 3 times.
Shoo.
Yeah, and salt stains on the clothing afterwards.
Oh yeah, I got pictures. I have literal salt deposits on my clothes, and I actually tried calculating how much salt I actually ate, and to the best of my calculation, I was somewhere between 8 and 12 teaspoons of salt that day.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a lot of salt.
Yeah, but I felt fine. I mean, I was physically tired, but I didn't feel drained. It actually it all held up well considering. Well, then of course, I went to the gym first thing in the morning before all that, so started the day off right.
Yeah. Okay, well, before we move on, let's talk about our previous guests that you will have heard, that our listeners will have heard the interview from by the time that they're hearing this. Liquid provided us some custom flavors to try, and so we're going to try one on the air here. Jim actually had already tried this one, and then I haven't tried it, just popped it open here. We believe this is the mixed berry flavor. So Alberto's going to pour out a little bit for himself.
Yeah, and I do mean a little bit because I would like to sleep tonight.
Yeah. I on the other hand, probably have some editing or some whatnot to do. And so I will probably end up staying awake. And so this will probably help with that.
I feel like we need to have some Lawrence. I feel like we need to have some Lawrence Welk music in the background. Some bubbly types, champagne. Some band type stuff. Yeah.
So Jim, tell us about your impressions on it. What were your thoughts?
So I was grateful for the Liquid guys to provide a couple different flavors. And the first one that I have tried, because I'm saving the others as I go, was the mixed berry. It's carbonated, number one, so it's got a little bit of fizz to it, obviously. If you sometimes people have a visual thing about their food and their drinks and whatnot, and I forgot when I was drinking it that this is not a soda, so it is not dark. It is clear like water. So that's a point in its favor there. Subtle. It's not overbearing, strong taste or anything like that. Nice little kick to it. I was very happy with it. I will say mixed berry is probably not the first one that I would reach for on the shelf. So it's good. But I've got another one or two to try. I know there's an orange mixed in there. That was my request, and I forget what else is in the stockpile. So far so good on the liquid drinks. How about you guys?
So we've all tried it here, including our guest. We'll get his opinion here in a second as well. I like it. It's this was the one that I asked for. I asked about mixed berry, so they did that, and I think they hit it. This is a good. It's kind of a little bit on the blue raspberry side, maybe. And so, and that's fine by me. That's a flavor that I go for from other drinks, but I like that it's the liquid drink that doesn't have all the extra stuff that isn't necessary in it. It's just water and some BHB salt and some caffeine, and that's a good thing. So yeah, I'll be sipping on this the rest of the time. Yeah. Alberto, what are your thoughts?
I dig it. I mean, mind you, the ones that we asked for, these things are in plain silver cans with little Sharpie markers on them because they made the offer for us to make our own custom flavors, and they were going to custom blend them and send them to us, which they did, which is awfully gracious of them. And I dig it. Like you said, it's very subtle, like a slightly over flavored seltzer water, which is what I really like about it. But I think they nailed it on the head. And if this is just like their prototype and they're going to tweak it from there, it can only get better, I think.
Yep, I agree. Well, let's go ahead and introduce our guest, and then we'll get his opinion on it as well. Today, we are joined by Jared, one of our group members. He's from Texas, and he's like, hey, if I'm going to be on, I might as well just come down and see you guys. I travel all the time anyway, so he made the trip down here, 5 hours driving and whatnot. Thanks for joining us. What were your thoughts on the liquid? This is your first time to even try liquid at all?
Yes, this was my first time to try anything that they've done. I've had all of the other kind of drinks from other brands and stuff. This one, in comparison to those, it has the flavor, but not the overpoweredness of a lot of the other ones that feel like they're trying too hard to be sweet. This one is a lot more subtle, and I actually quite enjoyed it.
Very cool. Yeah. So Liquid is definitely a brand that we, the two of us that have drank a lot of it now, we support wholeheartedly at this point. I've got to get another case because I am out, and I just need to put the order in on Amazon. So let's go ahead and dive into the life of Jared here. Tell us a little bit more about yourself, where you got your started, tell us get us started up to, when you started needing to reclaim your health.
Real quick.
Oh,
there's only one Jared in the group, but how do you say your last name so that when people hear this, they know exactly who we're talking about?
Yelverton.
All right, there you go, guys. Now you know.
And that's why I was avoiding it.
It's okay. It is honestly exactly how it's spelled. A lot of people overthink it, and it's not the first time I've heard it today. It won't be the last time I hear it this week. Cool. And we're already on Wednesday.
Very good. So tell us about Jared.
Okay. Well, I am 36 years old, 3 daughters, married, and before I found keto, I had basically lived about a decade and a half on the overweight to obese side, in varying degrees, of course, depending on the jobs that I had at the time. I would lose weight whenever I would have a very strenuous activity job, like I did warehousing and construction. Those, I never really ate good, but I would drop down in weight on those. In 2012, I ended up getting a job where I actually spend the majority of my time at a desk. And I started gaining about 10 to 12 pounds a year. And by the time my last daughter, who was born in March of last year, came about a month and a half before that, I ended up getting some blood work done for some other reasons. And whenever the blood work came back, the doctor told me, your weight has become a problem because your blood work is very, very bad, and I'm concerned about your longevity of life. So I said, okay, thank you for being honest with me. Then the next month, my daughter was born. I was weighing in around 265 pounds. My weight should have been around 180 to 185-ish. And I was not feeling good, all kinds of chronic health problems. And I started looking into things shortly after she was born, and come to find out my wife was looking at the same things. We just didn't know that each other was looking.
Secret ketoing?
So she was looking for, I guess, about 2 months or so. I had already been looking for about 3 months, and it just happened to come up in conversation one night at dinner. As a matter of fact, I can tell you the exact day was July 1st. And I said, wait, what's that word that you said? And she said, keto. And I said, really? I've been looking into that too. So then we got into about this 45-minute conversation about what we thought about it. And then from that point, we had decided we were going to start. She wanted to start in about a week to 10 days or so. And I said, no, I know me. If I put it off, I'm going to keep coming up with excuses to put it off. So I started the very next day. I took my first pictures as my motivation to never get back to that form again. And the people who have been in the group for a while, you've seen those pictures because they have been used a lot in my before and afters. And so from there, I started July 2nd of last year and had basically got down to my goal weight in right around 4 months. Didn't do any exercising until I hit my goal weight. It was 100% diet.
And just for reference, how tall are you?
I am 6'1.5", but I round up on my driver's license.
And you went from what weight to what's your current weight?
I went from 265 to my goal weight was 185. The lowest that I got was 178, and I am currently bulking back up a little bit, so I am right around 189.
Tell us, Jared, when you were at that highest point, I mean, you talked about the numbers and everything from the doctor and whatnot, but did you feel like you were carrying that full weight, so to speak? I mean, were you active at all? Were you doing things? Guys will talk about the sweats. They'll talk about being out of breath. They can't tie their shoes and whatnot. What were you not realizing that you weren't able to do, or were you feeling like you could do everything?
Well, I mean, for a while I was in denial. There was a time where I was just about at my heaviest and I was still trying to squeeze into jeans that were too small. I ended up causing a permanent mark on my stomach now that will not go away. So it's a daily reminder of accept who I am. And if I can't, then make some changes. I had to hold my breath to tie my shoe. I couldn't really play with my kids at the park. I had to sit down on a bench and watch, which was a little discouraging, especially whenever I came to the point where I had to accept it. For a while, I would still try, then I would be out of breath, and I'd tell the kids to just go play and I'll catch up. But probably one of the worst things was my sleep. My sleep was actually extremely bad. I had it tracked. I was waking up right around 100 times a night.
Holy cow.
And it was apparently because I would stop breathing, especially if I was on my back. My sleep apnea got so bad that there was a couple of times that my wife thought that I had just stopped breathing like I was dead. And she was like, "Hey, wake up." And I'm like, what? And she was like, "Don't do that. You scared me. Roll over." I said, okay. So it was that. It was joint pain. I did sweat a whole lot more the heavier that I was. But more than anything, like all that stuff I could, make excuses for. It was whenever the blood work came back that it really scared me.
You started that day, you didn't give yourself the chance to kind of drag things out or make excuses, which is a definite strategy to win. What was it like adjusting? What was it like adapting? What were some of the things that we'll talk about the struggles, and then we'll talk about the things that were surprising or easy. But what did you kind of find whenever you're first trying to get adapted that you maybe had a hard time with?
Well, for me, the hardest part was actually probably just like maybe the first 9 to 10 days, because I had gotten so used to Taco Tuesday and having pizza on a regular basis, like twice a week. I used to take the kids all the time to the donut shop. It was cutting out the breads because I was always a big bread eater. And when I was younger, it wasn't a big deal. I was athletic in high school. I played sports. I was a lifeguard. I swam. I was always active. I couldn't put a pound on me if I tried. I got out of high school probably at about a 145. I was actually underweight. And then it was just a couple years later, my metabolism was just completely gone. So that was the biggest problem for me, was trying to cut out the breads on my favorite foods, because any of my friends or my family back then could have told you I was the pizza guy. If there was going to be a social gathering, I was bringing pizza and probably cheesy bread and probably some sort of desserts and soda.
So, what were some of the wins? What were some of the easy things, or what did the strategies become that you keyed into as you hit those roadblocks?
Well, it was, like I said, it was hard at first for me just because of what I was used to eating. But there was also still a bunch of other things that I really loved to eat that was always incorporated in that. We used to always go get steak. We used to always go get chicken wings. And instead of getting the breaded boneless ones, which are not even wings, we would get the ones without the sauce, and we would get the bone in. We would do steak more often. As much as Alberto's not going to like this, we did eat a lot of chicken. And I also, instead of doing the Taco Tuesdays with having it in the shells or in the tortillas, I would just put all of it in a bowl. And we would use our own seasoning too. It wasn't the store-bought stuff anymore. That was a big thing because I had looked on the back of the store-bought stuff that we had and realized that could severely set me back.
Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it, when you start looking at all the commercial stuff of what's actually in there?
Oh, absolutely. All the ingredients.
Because over at HEB, which I'm sure you're at HEB, if you have an HEB near you, in their bulk bins, I go by their bulk bins and I buy all my spices in bulk. And I was so thrilled that I would say about 2/3 of everything in those bulk bins, as far as just a regular taco seasoning, chili seasoning, none of that stuff has sugar in it. Right. As I was sitting there reading the labels, I was just like, this big old smile on my face. I'm like, this is amazing. So now every time I need taco seasoning, I just go there and fill up a big old container. And it's like, I don't know, 80 something cents an ounce, whatever it is. It's super dirt cheap. It's way cheaper than buying the jar. So you can't go wrong.
Oh, absolutely. And you can keep them closed too. You just open up what you need there.
Yeah. Especially for trying out new things. If you're going to try to get a spice for a recipe that you're not sure if you're going to like, and if you got a bulk bin and you could just buy a teaspoon of it for your recipe, and say that doesn't work out, you didn't buy a whole package of it that you're never going to use again.
Yeah,
so that's probably one of the bigger benefits.
I've done that. We've done that a lot, actually. We had to throw away a whole bunch of that stuff. Just a couple months ago, we looked, and half of the stuff that was up in our little spice rack was expired by a year and a half. It's like, oh, well, that would explain that we never use it, because if we did, we would have noticed that. So we chunked a whole bunch of stuff, and we know what we like now, and we have a pretty regular routine when it comes to what we're going to cook. Every now and then, she'll find a recipe and we'll change it up and stuff. We'll try out some things, but for the most part, it's a lot of meats. I actually have started eating green vegetables since starting keto, which was one of the things that I never did in my entire life. All the way up until 35 years of age, the only green that I ever ate before that was green beans. And now I eat all kinds of them. Probably not as much as I should. I'm almost strict carnivore just because I really like steak and bacon.
No shame in that.
Yeah, no shame in that one bit.
Jared, going back just a little bit, you're talking about high school time and everything like that. Anybody in your family then or even now have similar weight issues from what you've experienced? The gain, or when you mentioned that your metabolism kind of changed a few years after high school, was that your thing, or did anybody else in the family ever go through something similar?
Well, my grandfather was always a large guy, and a couple of his brothers were as well. I don't really know a lot of people on my dad's side of the family. I know my dad and my brother. Everybody else, I just do not know. So I can't really speak on that side. But as far as my mom's side goes, my grandfather, who I was around for the first 18 years of my life, he actually lived with us for about half of that. He was always a larger guy, and he was probably right around the same weight that I was at my max, was about his normal carrying weight that he had after he had retired. And he was a diabetic. He had to check his blood sugar. He had to eat special things. And so I'm sure that that got passed down a little bit, how easy it was for me to all of a sudden I'm in my 30s and, hey, guess what? You're pre-diabetic now. Oh, okay. Let's make some changes.
Mm-hmm.
So did I hear you right when it sounded like you said you lost weight like crazy, crazy fast?
Yes, I lost all of it in 4 months.
So you went from 265 to 178. Is that right?
Oh, well, I hit my goal weight.
Oh wait, you hit your goal weight. Okay,
Yeah.
Well, the goal weight was 185.
Yes, I was right around 186, right at Halloween. So that was right under 4 months.
So did you run into any people that like hadn't seen you in like 5 months?
Yes.
What was that like?
Well, I do shift work, so there's actually some people at work that I won't see for a couple of months at a time, just because our schedules just won't line up. We won't be in the same place at once. So there was a couple of people at work, not really anybody else, because whenever I moved out there, it was for work more than it was anything else. So I don't know a lot of people in the area that I'm at, except for a little bit of family. So the coworkers that did see me, I had one person ask me if I had cancer.
Well, yes, thank you for noticing.
And I was like, no, as far as I know, I'm actually doing a good job of preventing cancer, but thank you. I had somebody ask me if I was struggling at home. And then there was a couple of people, I don't know exactly who, because, every workplace, it doesn't matter if it's a group of guys or whoever, there's always a few that gossip, like some high school kids. A few of them apparently had thought that I was on drugs and had told somebody in HR that they thought I was on drugs. So I had to go take a random while I was at work. And the only thing that came out of that was they said, well, you have a lot of ketones in your blood. And I said, yep, I sure do.
That's by design.
That's crazy. Isn't it crazy the society we live in now where you lose a bunch of weight and it immediately has to come to something negative happening? Like no one could just say, oh, look, this guy took control of his health and decided to dump a bunch of weight. It's always like, oh, are you eating enough? Are you sick? Having trouble at home? Are you not sleeping? Yeah. It always goes to a negative place. But that's normal. It's just crazy.
Right. But I also did go against the norm of what is there at work. The job that I have, like I said, is normally at a desk. And most people who are doing that job have a tendency to gain weight. And whenever they get out of that job, they have gained a minimum of 30 pounds if they go to another job. So I did the opposite of that. I gained all of it, of course, because I started there. I was probably about 200 pounds. Because right before I moved to that area, I had a job at a frozen food warehouse. So it's negative 20 degrees, 10 hours a day, heavy lifting and cardio. I actually lost a very good chunk of weight doing that job. And then as soon as I got out of that job and into my new job, I slowly started gaining all of it back. And I did what everybody else did. I gained a lot of weight. We snack a whole bunch because we're there for 12 hours. And we can't leave, so we bring all kinds of snacks and sometimes not the best foods, which was honestly just an excuse. Because if you're going to pack your food, you can always pack healthier food. I didn't look at it that way back then. I look at it now. Exactly. It was the convenience of getting microwavable stuff, getting stuff to make sandwiches and things like that, so that you could just have a little quick meal, and none of them were actually healthy for me.
Yeah, that's the way it goes. I remember when I quit painting, because painting cars is a very active job. And so like when I actually took the corporate position of being like a corporate field rep, pretty much just troubleshooting car paint, like I had my moment early because I had that job, because I always pretty much weighed the same. And I was probably always bouncing around between like 165 and 175. And then when I paint, I wear this. It's almost like a back brace, but it's the breathing apparatus. It's all attached to a back brace, and I always had to have that thing cinched all the way as tight as it could possibly go, just so it would fit me. Because I'm not a very big guy. But the first time that I hadn't worn it for a month because I took this new job, and I put it on as a joke, and I couldn't buckle it. Like it would not close. So I ended up having to like pull it up, and it's adjustable. But I hopped on the scale, and I had gained 8 pounds the first month from when I quit painting. And
wow.
it was at that point where I was like, I'm not going to loosen the belt on this thing. And I would have to hike it up, and I would have to exhale as hard as I could just to get this thing to snap. But I absolutely refused to loosen it to make it more comfortable until I forced myself to lose the weight. But yeah, those little lifestyle changes, if you're not adjusting accordingly, they will definitely catch up with you quick.
Yes, and they did. And I always would just say, oh, it's no big deal. I can lose that 5 pounds. And then it became, oh, I could lose those 10 pounds. And then it became 20 pounds. And I joined a gym and went for like 4 days and then never went back. Twice. Yeah, I did that twice.
Well, sometimes you just got to pay not to go.
Well, I definitely paid for it.
So let's talk
In
a little
many
bit
ways.
about working out, because obviously that is a passion of yours. So tell us about your workout routine and what do you do, what do you enjoy, what are you struggling if there is any spot. Talk to us about the physical side of things.
Well, it has become a passion now just because of the fact that I can go and I don't feel like just complete garbage when I'm done. Because that's probably why I quit the other times. But what I do mostly, and like these guys here, I've gotten into the habit of going very early in the morning. And it has helped me out a whole lot actually during the day. If I go in the morning and get in a good exercise, 35, maybe 45 minutes without taking any breaks though, then I have actually had a lot better days. I've felt better. I've been more awake. I've been alert, and I've gotten past the part of constantly being sore. Granted, I still feel it every time I go, but it's not like I can't move anymore. It was like that at first. I couldn't move because I was trying too hard. These two guys here are fortunate enough to actually be able to work out with each other. I have tried to get people in my area to go with me. They think I'm crazy for going at 4 o'clock in the morning. So I do a lot of machine exercises because I don't have a spotter, and I'm trying to lift a little. I'm trying to lift a little bit heavier. So in order for me to do that, machines right now is the way to go. I posted a video. What was that, about a week and a half ago or so? Where I was in the gym and it was all machine weight. So you couldn't actually see the weight that I was pulling. And for that, I wasn't at my max on it because I was actually trying to get in a little bit of reps. But it was still a lot heavier than what I could do just a month ago. And it's definitely a lot more than what I was able to do while I was in the process of losing the weight. Because like Alberto said, I had dropped that weight very fast. My abdomen had actually not tightened up enough. And it looked like I had a hernia because it was loose right in the middle. And I had to go see a doctor about that. And they said, no, it's not a hernia. Just start to do light exercises, keep moving, stretch it out. Eventually it'll tighten up. It's like, okay, good. But then they said, but you have this spot right under your tailbone that is going to be a problem, and you're going to need surgery on it. It was polynatal cysts. Had to have 2 of those taken out, and I did that on October 31st, which was actually, August 31st. It was 2 months in to doing keto, and then for 2 months I couldn't do any kind of exercise because they cut a big hole in me, and I had to heal from the inside out. So I would like to thank my wife, because I'm sure she's going to listen to this. Thank you for cleaning and changing out my bandage for 2 months. I'm sure it was disgusting. But after I was cleared to work out, I couldn't do a sit-up or crunch to save my life. It hurt. And my push-ups was actually probably around 2 or 3. I mean, after I had lost all of the weight because I didn't do any kind of exercises for the entire 4 months, whenever I started, I was extremely weak.
So it's almost like you fell into keto at almost the perfect time for the life that was going on with you at the time.
Yes.
Because had you not, then I still had to been bedridden for that long. But had you not cleaned up your diet, that could have gone completely the other direction.
Oh yeah, I was actually talking with my friend Scott about this. He's not 100% keto, but he saw how much weight I started to lose, and then he started doing more of a low carb lifestyle. He's probably dropped about 25 pounds or so. But I was just talking with him about this last night. I was like, if I wouldn't have changed when I did, I'd probably be over 300 pounds right now.
Yeah.
Which would have been, 35 pounds heavier than my heaviest was. And I had been my heaviest twice in my life. I had been 265 at the beginning of 2011 before I started that job at the warehouse. And then again last year in February when I got the blood work done, and that lasted until about the beginning of June. I had cut back a little bit on sodas, and I had probably lost a couple of pounds. But I was still pretty heavy.
Yeah, that's crazy. And were you tracking the whole time you were losing, or were you just kind of just winging it? Or
well, I had tracked the food that I was eating for the first 2 months. And I did that because I was always so unsure about my choices, and I would put everything in and I would check it. I was extremely strict until I had that surgery. And then whenever I couldn't move as much, I was like, babe, just bring me some meat. Just bring me some meat and some kind of green veggie with butter and bacon, and that's pretty much what I had during my healing process was a lot of meat and a lot of butter and bacon smothered green veggies. So I didn't really have to do any counting during that time because I had restricted what I was going to eat to stuff that I knew. But after those 2 months, the first 2 months of tracking, whenever I was actually able to move around again and cook for myself, I kind of knew, so I really stopped tracking, and I haven't tracked since. I just know, hey, that has too many carbs, I'm not going to touch it. I still look at the ingredients on things. If we're going out to eat, I still go online and to look at their nutrition facts and stuff before we get there, because I don't want to be that guy who's there at the table looking up stuff and holding everybody else up. So we decide where we're going to go, and I'll know what I'm going to eat before we go. So, yeah, I mean, to an extent, I track that way, but I don't put everything in and track throughout the whole day now just because I pretty much know. And eating 1 to 2 meals a day, most of the time 1 meal a day, you don't really have to do a whole bunch of tracking anyway because you kind of know what that one meal is.
Right, yeah.
Steak.
It's working for you, man.
Steak and bacon.
Another thing I just wanted to bring up, and I talked to you about this before the last time we met, is for the amount of weight you lost and how quickly you lost it, you have surprisingly almost no loose skin at all. And I don't know if you can blame that on genetics or if there was anything specific you did, but I mean, your pictures are out there. It's not like this is news to anyone that hasn't seen the pictures, but your body took to it extraordinarily well.
Well, I had kind of gone up and down in weight like that before, not to the extremes that I did this last time and how quick that I lost it. So whenever I had lost all the weight at that warehouse job in 2011, that was over about the course of 11 months. This time it was 4 months, and I was also about 6 years older. So I kind of expected it to be where I would have more than what I actually did have. And the only thing I can say is my wife reminded me to stay hydrated, drink plenty of water, sometimes drink extra water, especially since the job that I have, I am outside a little bit. We do have a lot of stuff at a desk, but we are also outside a lot. So those times in June, July, and August gets extremely hot. So I drink probably 12, 20-ounce bottles of water a day on average. And then during the hotter months, I probably add another 4 to 5 to it.
That's awesome.
And collagen pills. I took collagen pills. I was told that would help. Obviously, I don't have anything to compare it to, because I was told to do it, so I did it. And as far as I know, it helped because I don't have all that skin hanging over. My wife is very mad at me because she's had 2 kids and is going to end up having to have surgery for hers. But she's also not quite at her goal weight yet. You know, having a baby and having the hormones and everything has slowed her down a little bit. Not to mention, about 2 months ago, we were dealing with her dad passing away. So she basically was like, screw it, I'm going to eat whatever I want. I'm in mourning, and if you say anything about it, I'm going to cut you. And I said, yes, ma'am, I'm going to back off.
Wise move.
Yes. But she didn't really gain anything either. It just stalled her growth. I mean, it stalled her losses, but she didn't really gain.
Oh, that's great.
Because she was still just eating like 1 to 2 times a day. Like, she still did our normal intermittent fasting periods, but when she ate, it was whatever.
Hey there, gents. I know it feels like a long ways away, but it will be here before you know it. KetoCon 2020. It's happening June 12th through the 14th in Austin, Texas. We're wanting to get a Keto Man's Club event set up and want you to attend. The reason we're bringing this up now is that you don't want to miss out on the half-price weekend tickets. This offer is only good until September 30th, so you do not want to miss out. $150 gets you a full weekend at the conference, amazing speakers sharing their stories and knowledge, the chance to hang out with other keto friends and family, and so much more. There's a link in the description that you can use, or you can visit ketocon.org for tickets. Don't wait. Get your tickets now.
So I want to jump in and ask 2 questions. Number one, you mentioned doing the 1 meal a day. Tell us and our listeners when you typically do that on the clock, so to speak. Are you doing that morning, evening, whatever? And then I'm curious about this collagen pill thing, because this is something that a lot of the guys in the Keto Man's Club mention, is that loose skin issue. Is this an over-the-counter thing? I've never heard of collagen pills. So anything that you can share on the 1 meal a day and that is what I'd like to hear a little bit more about.
Well, the 1 meal a day thing typically is for dinner, because if I don't eat what my wife cooks, well, then that might cause some problems. But it's not always 1 meal a day. It's probably that half the week. Every now and then I'll have a week straight where I'm just going to eat that 1 meal. So it's basically I'm going to do a 24-hour fast. I'm going to eat that 1 meal. And she'll cook a bunch of food, and I'll normally have 2 or 3 servings, and I stay full until the next day, probably about an hour or 2 before it's time to eat again. And to keep me from snacking, I'll just drink half a gallon of water. So that's what I've done with the 1 meal a day. Is it's not all the time. It's about half the time. But it is something that I've gotten accustomed to. I don't crave having to have lunch. I really was never much of a breakfast person to begin with, so cutting that out and starting with the intermittent fasting about 3 to 4 weeks after I started keto was not a big deal either. So cutting it back down to 1 meal a day from 2 was actually not hard for me at all. And the collagen thing is actually, it's over the counter. You can find them at every grocery store. You can find them at every pharmacy. They're just in the normal aisles where you find your typical vitamins, right next to vitamin C.
Makes sense.
Yes.
Yeah, I have a container of collagen peptides that I sometimes will scoop into my coffee or something like that whenever I'm making a bulletproof coffee. I got mine from Wild Foods, but there's a bunch of reputable companies out there that can get you that collagen supplementation. Wild Foods is just one that's local to Austin. I like supporting them, and they also are very picky about their ingredients, and so you know that what you're getting is really good, really well-sourced items. It's a little expensive, I'll be honest. It's a little expensive, but it's worth it.
Yeah, it's probably a good idea when you're looking into something like that, find one that says all natural, just so that you don't get all the extra chemicals that are put in a lot of things as a filler.
Yeah, fillers would be a problem.
Okay.
So, so you've been working out, you've been continuing your journey, building muscle and things like that. What's been the most surprising thing about the process on keto versus previous attempts or previous weight loss that you've had?
When it comes to going to the gym?
Well, just in general. Yeah.
In general, well, I mean, I noticed within the first 10 days of starting keto that I was actually more focused at work. I was starting to sleep better. I actually had from June to July, so I had only been doing keto for a couple of weeks. I have a picture that I still have on my phone, and I have probably posted a couple times of just the 3 to 4 weeks, how much weight I had lost in my face. I know that was probably inflammation and water weight more than it was anything else at the beginning, but it was what kept me going. Being able to actually notice that difference immediately in those two pictures was all the motivation that I needed to know that whatever I was doing was working and I need to stick with it. And considering the fact that you can have a lot of really good foods on the diet, it wasn't hard to convince myself, hey, just keep eating steak and bacon and eggs. It was the breads and the sodas that was going to be the hardest part for me. And I had stopped the cravings on those within probably the first 3 weeks.
You did that through just pure abstinence, just avoiding them completely?
Yes, I just avoided everything completely. As a matter of fact, whenever we started, and my wife jumped on board as well, we went through our cabinets and pantries and fridge and freezer. And I have 3 freezers because we have one that's just meat. That's what happens when you're down here in Texas. You have some family member who hunts and is going to give you meat. So you might as well go ahead and have at least one just for meat. So that one we kept, left alone. Everything else, all the microwavable stuff and the box dinners and all the canned stuff that had preservatives in it, everything we're going through and reading every label in there, and we're putting stuff out on the counter. This is going, this is going, this is going. And we donated 3/4 of the stuff that we had in our house because it was not going to be something that I was going to have in the house while I was trying to eat a particular way. And she looked at it and said, we just wasted a lot of money. And I said, yeah, but think about how much money we're going to save by me not having to go to the hospital. And She said, point taken. So we bagged it all up and donated it.
Yeah, and that's pretty much the excuse I run with at home is because I was spending a ton of money on medications before I was able to wean completely off them. And I'm like, you know what, yeah, every once in a while I got to go out and spend $400 or $500 to buy like half a cow. But at the same time, my medication bill currently is absolutely zero. So it's, it's kind of a balance. Take one or the other. You're going to be spending money somewhere.
Right.
So.
And that is a great feeling to know that you don't have to have any medications, because right before I started this, they were telling me that I was going to have to start checking my blood and taking insulin and taking cholesterol meds and all this other stuff. And I said, no, I can't bring myself to do that. I did the cholesterol med thing probably around 2005, and it made me feel like garbage. And whenever I got off that, I told myself I was never going to get to it again. They tried to put me back on it. That was the day that they said, hey, your blood work came back bad. So that was when I decided I was going to do something with how I eat. And keto was the probably the 3rd or 4th thing that I stumbled across, but it's the one that grabbed my attention the most. So then I just kept looking into it. And then after about a week, it was the only thing I was looking into. And then I was just getting all the information that I could.
Isn't it crazy how, like, after you start going through everything, reading all the labels, it's like the simplest solution is the most effective. After everything you've gone through, after all the food and looking at all the boxes, the processed junk, and the stuff that was quote unquote easier to cook and quote unquote healthy, and then when you find the one thing, it's like, oh yeah, it's like literally like steak and eggs and a vegetable here and there.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm not gonna lie. Whenever I first heard what keto was, like the whole concept of having a high fat diet threw me off because, for 35 years I had been told that we need to have a low fat diet. Yeah. And then the best part about when I looked into stuff was all the positive things that I kept reading about was from studies and from actual papers and research, and all the negative things were opinions and surveys and Jillian Michaels.
and let's, at least for me,
I take issue specifically with her because we used to have a lot of her stupid Wii games and DVDs and stuff. Yeah. I told my wife we're not having those anymore because she's a fraud.
Yeah, pretty much.
I threw them away. I was bitter.
Yeah, well, you also got to tell you, Kyle, like when you first start researching keto, and not that it's inherently wrong, but at least when I first started researching keto, like almost everything is touted about like quite literally bacon and butter. And I'm like, okay, well, bacon and butter is good, but like, I don't want to live off bacon and butter. And it's like, that gets the most shock value. So that's like what's put right out in front of all these articles and everything you read is bacon and butter, bacon and butter. And finally, when you start digging a little deeper, you're like, oh, it's not all bacon and butter. That's just, the easiest forms of fat. So that's what gets put in front of people at first.
Yeah, and also I think both sides use the example of bacon and butter. You have the side that's for it, says, hey, look, you can eat this on this diet and still lose weight. Then you have the people who are against it saying, look, this diet says that this is what you eat, and guess what? It's going to kill you.
Yeah.
And they couldn't be further from the truth because my blood work has never been better in my life, and I'm 36 and a half now.
Yeah, and it was the same for me in the sense that, like once I started feeling better, and I've said it before, it was like I was making up for lost time with all the stuff that I could never eat. So that's why, and I don't want to say I take issue, but when people start harping so much about like calories, yeah, of course, it's all comes down to calories in versus calories out. But I only wanted to lose 5 or 10 pounds. So I was purposely making up for lost time with my food. I'm like, I'm not cooking. Like, I'll cook 2 pounds of bacon because my kids are going to want something. I'm going to want a pound for myself. And everything. And my whole 8-month weight loss, I was eating like that. And according to every calculator I punched my numbers into, I was eating 400, 500, 600 calories above what my maintenance was. So it means one of two things. Either my metabolism ramped up between that and my workouts, and I was burning more than I was eating, which is highly likely.
Yes.
Or 2, the entire system is completely flawed, and it is literally the best that we have.
I vote for both.
Yeah.
Yeah. The science, and we'll go to Jim next because he's been kind of waiting. But the science that's coming out is that more and more of the time, if you ramp up how much energy you provide your body, as in clean, good energy, that's going to only ramp up your body's ability to use energy. It's only going to use more. That is, if it's clean energy. So we're talking about fat. We're not talking about carbs. Carbs, there's kind of a limit. Your body will only use so much, and then it's going to store the rest. But with fat, it seems to have a completely different metabolic response.
Yeah. One last quick thing I wanted just to add to that was, I forgot what I was going to say. Oh yeah. All right, let me start all over. One thing I wanted to add to that was the whole quote unquote calories don't matter. And it's not that calories don't matter in the sense where if you eat to a surplus, you're going to gain. If you eat to a deficit, you're going to lose. I think that in reference to the way I always looked at it was, if you're eating what you want and you're 100% satisfied and losing weight, then do the calories really matter?
Well, I mean, whenever I hit my goal and I went into maintenance, I kind of just made the choice that I was going to eat until I was full. Not until I was stuffed, but until I was full. Like, okay, that's good. I don't have to stuff myself like I used to, especially whenever we have a lot of carbs, a lot of empty carbs. We have a tendency to overeat, and we eat more times throughout the day because it's empty calories, and they have a habit of not keeping you full. But with the food that I've eaten now over the past, 13 and a half months or so, it's totally different. I eat and I'm good. I'm full. I stay full. And especially when I do the 1 meal a day thing, I have a very big meal. Like, I think the last time we had steak at the house, she had to cook 2 packs of it because I ate a pack and a half, which was probably my share of that was 24 ounces of steak. I felt good though. It was mighty tasty. But yeah, I was full, and that's how I started looking at it. Was if I'm full, I don't think that I have to count the calories. If I start stuffing myself, then maybe I went overboard and I need to see where I went wrong. Or if I'm hungry where I have to eating, then what am I eating? But I agree, it's like I don't focus on the calories because I just pay attention to how I feel after I eat and throughout the day. And it hasn't steered me wrong yet. I know there's a lot of other people who are going to track every day, though.
With all the talk a few minutes ago about the food that you got rid of and everything like that, I have to believe that there was one thing in that cabinet and that fridge and that freezer, someplace, something that you held on to for just a moment and like, man, I'm going to miss this. And we see that periodically in the group where somebody really has a thing for pizza or whatever the case may be. Was there anything in there that you're just like, oh, I'm going to really miss this? And if so, have you found something that is keto friendly or that's something that you've adapted to make work for you?
Well, I mean, there's all kinds of things that I was putting on the counter that I said, oh man, I'm going to miss this. But I can actually say that I didn't keep any of it. Because like I said earlier, I know me. And if I kept it, I would eat it, I would get off track, and then I would come up with an excuse of, oh, well, it's no big deal. That stupid diet's not going to work anyway. So I eliminated my excuses because I know that if I didn't, I would use one of them. The big thing for me has always been pizza. I was obsessed with pizza my entire life. You can thank the stupid Ninja Turtles for that. So I have done quite a few ways of keto pizzas. We have done the chicken crust. We've done a ground beef crust where we had it all together with like some almond flour and some egg and butter and flattened it out and cook it first and then put all of our toppings on it. We did the same for chicken. We've done 2 kinds of the fathead dough, one with almond flour, one with coconut flour. As much as I don't like normal coconut flavored stuff, I liked the coconut flour dough more than the almond flour dough. I can't really explain that one. Every now and then, if we are lazy, and I will not recommend anybody just like go and do this, but since I had already hit my goal weight, we would get the low carb tortillas from HEB, and anybody from the South, especially in Texas, knows exactly what I'm talking about. It's like each tortilla is like 3 grams of carbs. You have 2 of those, load them up with extra toppings, extra cheese, so that you actually get full without having a bunch of it. And that's kind of been when we have a lazy night, because we have a lot of that with having kids. We have horse practice and softball practice, and we have a baby who is all over the place. So for those quick nights when we're almost out of time, she'll turn to me and go, you want to make a pizza? I said, okay. And I'll pull some out. I'll lay down a couple of those low carb tortillas. And luckily we don't do it enough to where like it's going to cause any problems with having a lot of inflammation. It's kind of like our treat. I actually look at those tortilla pizzas as kind of like my cheat. And I also make queso, but I eat it with pork rinds.
There you go.
Hot and spicy pork rinds.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
They're at pork rinds with sour cream. It is surprisingly amazing.
I eat so much stuff with sour cream. I used to eat nacho cheese Doritos when I was a kid with just sour cream. I didn't put any kind of stuff in it. It was just sour cream, and I did that all the way until last year. Now I eat it. I eat the hot and spicy pork rinds with it. But I love sour cream.
Yeah, so we're talking about food, and we already know that steak is number one. What is number two as like your favorite go-to keto meal?
I'm going to have to say, because I have no problems with having breakfast any time of the day, or at least breakfast foods, I will make a keto omelet. It's never really good looking. It's probably mostly scrambled eggs more than it actually is an omelet. But I will take some bacon and extra cheese and some sausage. Every now and then get some ham diced up, but just load it up with all kinds of meats. Probably 2 or 3 kinds of cheese. And the last time I did it, I think I put in 12 eggs. So I had like 2 or 3 meals out of it. And last week, I really like meat, cheese, and eggs. I took some of the taco meat from last week with my little taco bowls, and I made a breakfast taco bowl. I put that stuff in there and then threw in some bacon still. I really like bacon.
Can't go wrong.
So I'm going to say eggs and bacon, and then any other form of meat and cheese to go with eggs and bacon.
Sure. No, easy and straightforward. That's honestly basically what I had today. We went to First Watch for brunch, and I had basically their closest thing to a protein omelet that they had. So yeah, that's good stuff. Okay, so let's go ahead and start wrapping things up a little bit. How can and we're going to do our highlight real, in a minute on highlighting members of our group here in a second. But we know you're in the group. Where else on social media are you, on your Instagram or anything like that?
Well, my Instagram is actually not a personal Instagram. It is actually dedicated to comic book movies. So it's not even me. I just have access to it through my Facebook page. Mm-hmm. So I'm basically just on Facebook. I don't like Twitter. I don't do Instagram personally. I might change that to where I have one, because one of the main reasons why I am going to the gym as much as I am now is because I'm training to try out for American Ninja Warrior. Mm. I told my kids that I would do it because I had talked about it for 5 years, and they called me out on it a couple of months ago, and I can't back out of it because then I can't tell them anything if I can't keep my own word. So I'm in the group, and then, of course, I'm on Facebook
in general.
And if you need to get a hold of me any other way, it's jared.a.yelverton@gmail.
Fair enough.
Very cool. Okay, well, let's do some shout outs real quick. Jim, who you got?
I am looking at a photo of one of our newer members. He joined, I think, just in the last 10 days or so. Tim Bowles. He is from North Carolina. Pretty remarkable transformation here. He says that he has been doing keto for about 10 months. His heaviest weight was 550 pounds. So that is a quarter ton, ladies and gentlemen. 550 pounds. His starting weight when he did keto, to get on keto, was 452. So he'd already lost basically 100 pounds when he started on keto. He is now in that 10 months down to 330 with a goal weight of 200 pounds or more. So he has lost 220 pounds from the start, roughly. and
Wow.
just a pretty remarkable transformation. It's not a pose photo, so to speak, though, that I'm looking at. It's him working outside kind of thing. But yeah, the dude has definitely made some big strides. And I wanted to share about Tim, number one, because he's a new member. And the fact that he felt comfortable enough to kind of lay it all out there right from the start kind of thing. But man, he has made some big progress. So kudos to Tim from North Carolina for making the big stride.
Absolutely. Alberto?
I'm going to kind of go on a different route on this one. And we got to get this guy on the podcast because he's overdue. But I'm just going to call out David Greco for posting a picture of his face with a giant gash on it. According to him, he fell. Doesn't want to admit he got beat up by his wife, but we're going to go with he fell. And but it did look bad. It looked like it hurt. That was a pretty good gash, but I got a kick out of it. Everybody was just kind of, poking at him and ribbing him for what could have possibly happened to him when he just said, "Nope, I just fell."
Yeah, he was saying that he was wishing it was a war room or something that he had earned in the gym. Yeah, that's funny, and that's one of the great part about the group is that we all pretty much feel free to laugh at ourselves along with providing some humor for the other members and whatnot.
And if it happens again, David, you were fighting a bear, dude. You're always fighting a bear.
Yep.
You got to Davy Crockett it and say that you were fighting a bear.
Yep. Agreed. So my shout out is actually going to be to like a whole group of people, like a ton of you guys in the group that have posted before and after pictures and things like that. Jim put out the call. He's getting ready to create a new banner for the Facebook group because we're about to hit our next 100 milestone, 2,700. Is that right?
That is.
Oh my gosh, 2,700 people. That's amazing. But we're coming up on that milestone, so he wanted some material to work with, and he put out the call, and you guys answered. And oh my gosh, there are some amazing transformations. This will be airing, probably 3 weeks to a month out from when we're recording this, and so we'll probably already have the banner up. Check it out. Try to go back in time and hit the post because there's some amazing pictures there. And that will motivate you and say, hey, you can do this because these folks did. And it's very much a good thing to have. So shout out to all of y'all because that's amazing.
Yeah, I was scrolling through those pictures. I almost wanted to add a transformation picture just so I could be part of that club. I was just scrolling through. I'm like, this is awesome. Like the amount of people that came through and commented. Yeah, it was cool. It was cool. I really dug it.
Okay, well, like we always mention, you can get in contact with us, the hosts here on. You can get in touch with us on the Facebook group. We also have some of us that are on. We are on Instagram as well. The podcast itself has an Instagram at Keto Man's Club Podcast. You can follow us there. We post reminders about episodes. We got some food posts and some workout posts and some random stuff that is all like keto related or group related there. So definitely follow us there. You can get in contact with me at DuckmanKeto and Alberto.
Yeah, I got two. I got a capital_painter where it's just all fun automotive stuff, and I've gotten into posting pictures of what automotive paint looks like before you throw on the shaker, which looks super trippy and cool. And I'll probably keep doing that because I mix paint quite often, and every single one's going to come out different. But as far as my keto stuff and workout stuff, it's at the... I forgot my own Instagram handle. Okay.
Well,
as far as my workout keto stuff... Yeah, no, I got it. I just forgot. I just blanked out for a second. I started thinking about paint swirling in a cup. And I just totally lost my train of thought. All right, we'll try it again. And for all my keto and workout stuff, it is at the keto... Damn, I messed it up again. At the Keto Cholo.
I think that's all staying in there.
It's all
I'm not sure I'm going to cut
Cholo.
that.
No, that should all stay. Man, when you travel to damn near Oklahoma for a week, and then you get forced to go to El Paso for a week, and then you come home to stay local, and local is driving 60 miles one way to a shop, and then having to drive to San Antonio tomorrow. Your brain kind of gets scrambled after a while.
No need for a take 3.
Run with it. I ain't too proud.
So yeah, at the Keto Cholo. And how about you, Jim?
Short, sweet, and simple. Find me in the Facebook group, the Keto Man's Club, and then Jim Inman Jr. on the Instagram as well.
Awesome. You can get to our Facebook group easily if you are not a member or if you just need a quick way to get there by going to theketomanclub.com. And you can email us any comments or questions, suggestions, whatever you got. You can email us at ketomansclubpodcast@gmail.com. And if you would, take a few seconds to go on Apple Podcasts, go on Spotify, wherever you can leave a rating or a comment, please do. It helps get the word out, get us in front of a few more people, and maybe a few more people are going to hear the good news of keto, which is, in my opinion, a very good thing. And so we want to get out there as much as possible. So that if you would leave a comment or a rating, that would be super, super helpful. I think that's it for us this week. Any last parting shots from anybody?
Yeah, the Keto Cholo.
The Keto Cholo.
Take 3. We got it.
Jim, any parting shots from you?
I am great. Jared, pleasure to talk to you, man. Next time, you're welcome to come to Indiana if you'd like.
Oh, don't tempt me. I like traveling.
Okay.
Very cool. Yes, and again, I echo that. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for driving down and joining us in person. That made for a nice difference in interview style.
It makes me rethink what I'm going to do with my giant air-conditioned shed in the backyard.
It was my pleasure.
Yep, absolutely. Okay, well, that's it for this week. Until next time, make sure to eat meat, lift heavy, sleep, and repeat.
Thank you for joining us for the Keto Man's Club podcast. Your support means the world to us. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss an episode. Would you help us spread the word about the Keto Man's Club by sharing with your friends and family? We're available on all podcast platforms, so just search for Keto Man's Club and you'll find us. If you would like to connect with us, you can do so a number of ways. Our web address leads to our Facebook group, theketomansclub.com. That's THEKETOMANSCLUB.com. You can also follow us on Instagram at Keto Man's Club Podcast. Lastly, if you have any comments or questions, feel free to reach out via email to ketomansclubpodcast@gmail.com. Thank you again for joining us today, and we look forward to hanging out with you again next week.